Get into it. God, we love you. We thank you for today. Again, Lord, let your word become alive in our lives. We know that it's alive. We know that it's active. But Lord, I pray that it meets us where we are in our faith journey. God, today it doesn't matter where we are in our faith journey because this text, this instruction, is for all of us. That while we have breath in our lungs and the ability to do so, that our love for one another should increase. So as we hear from your word, God, let it spur us on to become more like Jesus. We pray these things in your Son's name. Amen. All right, if you have your Bibles, go ahead and turn to 1 Thessalonians, the 3rd chapter. We're going to read a couple of verses, and then we're going to jump right over to chapter 4 and read a couple of verses there. I just want to talk real quick that in this letter, there's three major themes that Paul is kind of focused on in his writing. There's the holiness and the sanctification part of this. Those two work together. And if you think about it, these people that are receiving this letter, they live in this very polytheistic culture. There's many gods, and many gods have many religions. And he says to them that you are to be set apart. You're to be different, and the difference is because of what Jesus Christ has done. And then there's this theme of, speaking of Jesus, he's going to return, and there's kind of this little bit of an outline. There's some info for you and I as to what this return is going to look like. But he is coming back to take his children with him. And then the third theme is how we, the church, are to live to please God as we live together. And so when you follow the flow of this letter, all 5 chapters, love is on repeat. It comes up over and over and over again. So 1 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 12, may the Lord make your love increase in overflow for each other and for everyone else, just as ours does for you. May he strengthen your hearts so that you will be blameless and holy in the presence of our God and Father when our Lord Jesus comes with all his holy ones. Now, turn the page, jump over to chapter 4, verses 9 and 10. Now, about your love for one another, we do not need to write to you, for you yourselves have been taught by God to love each other. And in fact, you do love all of God's family throughout Macedonia. Yet we urge you, brothers and sisters, to do so more and more. All right, so Paul is commending this church that, remember, he only spent 3 weeks with, okay? He's commending them about their love. And if you go back, we're not going to read it, but if you go back to chapter 1, in his greeting, like the first real sentence, in his greeting, he remembers their labor prompted by love. He remembers their sacrifice prompted by love. And then as he gets into the heartbeat of this letter, he's telling these people who have been convicted of this, who have this love thing working for them, he's telling them that, oh, by the way, your love must increase. You ever thought about that before? You ever thought about that as you're navigating, as you're going through life as a Christ follower, that your love needs to abound more and more. It needs to increase. Now, we experience that, I hope, in healthy marriages. Right? I know that for Amanda and I'll speak to us, right? That over the 28 years of marriage, the 30 years of being together, man, our love for one another has grown significantly. I mean, the best thing about Amanda is that she loves me, right? Not a task that people want, right? Like there's not a whole lot of people signing up to do that. And she loves me, and it's evident in the actions. It's evident. And so we think about this, and hopefully your marriage is the same way, that as you have spent time together, you have spent years together, that love increases. And I love talking with some of our more seasoned couples, right? Who've been around. I know JW, where are those people at, right, JW? Right, who've been around. But you talk to them, and as they have, as their marriage has traveled, they've seen so many ups and downs, and they've gone through decades. Man, the love is real, it's genuine, and it has only increased for one another. And then you think about it as family units. We can relate to this. Our love for our children. Like, well, I mean, the first time you hold that baby, there's this instant feeling that you didn't know you would have, right? Of, oh my gosh, I've never felt anything like this before. I've got so much love for this. I would die for this little human being that I literally just met seconds ago. Like, there's this instantaneous thing. And then over the years, children, believe it or not, your parents' love for you overflows. It deepens. It's a richer kind of love. And so we get what Paul is saying on some levels here about our love needs to grow more and more. But here's the thing. This instruction is not limited to the nuclear family. He doesn't say keep it contained right here. He says that our love for one another needs to increase and overflow. And not just one another. Not just you and I, not just the body of Christ, but everyone else, he says. And so of course, I got to check this out. The Greek word here, it's for everyone else, it's for all, is this pas, P-A-S, and it literally means everyone else. Like everyone. Like the people that I interact with in my neighborhood, the people that I interact with on a regular basis at Publix or Walmart or wherever, the people that I interact with at the bank, wherever, the people that I am interacting with, my love for these people is to increase. Makes it difficult. And we know this, that love is not just an expression of words. I mean, I've already used it in a couple of different instances here beyond the sacrificial agape love that we're to have for one another. I said, I love it when some of our seasoned couples, right? We use the word love a lot in our culture. And so what Paul's saying here, it's not the expression of words that he's talking about. This idea of love increasing is lived out in action. And what's so important for us to remember as we dive into this text is that God is love. Now you think about that, like John wrote this in his first letter, and he's like, this is what God is. If you're trying to figure out what love, God is love. And now Paul over here is saying, your love must increase. And so for our love to increase, as Paul tells the Thessalonians, it means that we are to become more like God. Like our lives are to reflect that more and more. Which is why that is the vision of this church. It's the thing that is most important to us as Christ followers as we come together as a family, that is the goal. That's what we should be living for once we have surrendered our life to Jesus, is that with every breath in my lungs, with every ounce of energy that I have, I am living to become like Jesus, and that is done as I learn to love one another more and more. Ephesians 4:24, not on the screen. Paul writes to the church and he says, put on the new self, created to be like God in true righteousness and holiness. Our very nature of who we are are created to become like Him. And this is done with increasing love. So let's go to the primary teaching on what love is. Okay? You've heard it at weddings. We use it here often. And let's see how this must increase. So flip over 1 Corinthians chapter 13. It's going to come up here. We're going to walk through these step by step real quick. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. And so we're going to talk about this, but as you listen to this list, hey, can you identify which of these characteristics are strengths in your life? As we talk this out, I mean, some of you are extremely patient people, right? The rest of us don't like you at all. We got to work on the rest of it, okay? Some of you have that strength. What are the strengths do you have as we walk through this? But also, what are your weaknesses? Hey, what are the ones that you're just like, oh man, can we just kind of scratch through that one right there and just kind of omit that? All right, and then I've got a homework assignment. As you head out to lunch together, I want you to talk it over with the people in your car. All right, that's your homework assignment. Amanda and I drove separate. All right, here we go. Love is patient. Patience. Right? Like we've all said the jokes before, don't pray for patience because there's only one way to get it, and that is gospel truth right there, isn't it? But love is patient, and love must increase. So our patience with one another must increase. Several weeks ago, I was doing my soap, and it just dawned on me, like as I'm doing this thing, it just kind of came over me that the Lord's patience with Michael Sykes is tremendous. Okay, and here's what came over me is that like I'm supposed to have that same level of patience for others, and that was just like this really convicting, like, oh man, that's tough. Ladies, I'm going to say this because this is at the heart of what men are saying when in the middle of heated conversation, when they say, just calm down, right? Like that's patience. That's what this is. It's being even tempered while enduring trying circumstances. And so I know for years in our marriage, I'll say, oh, I don't even say calm down. I say simmer down. But what I'm saying is you're in the middle of trying circumstances and you just need to be practicing patience. It's worked 1,000% of the time in my marriage. I don't know about y'all. Then the real truth came. I am the trying circumstances, right? Like that's what it is. But so that's what this patience is. It's being even tempered while enduring trying circumstances. We're to be patient. And then there's love is kind. Kindness, we say kill them with kindness. Kindness encompasses several actions. There's gentleness. There's being considerate. There's being humane, warm-hearted, sympathetic. So those are actions. Those are characteristics of love, is that we're to be patient with one another. We're to be even tempered while enduring trying circumstances, and we're to be kind towards one another. And this is love does not envy. This wording here is to eagerly desire. Jealousy throughout the New Testament has a positive connotation and a negative connotation, and here it is used in the negative sense, and it's related to greed and selfishness. The jealous person wants what other people have. The jealous person longs for things for himself. He's too selfish to applaud others' success. You see something that others have or success that others achieve. What's your mentality toward them? Are you happy for people? Are you grateful they got to take that once-of-a-lifetime trip? Are you grateful that they got the raise? Are you grateful for these things? Or man, are you jealous? Is there envy in your heart because somebody has something that you don't have? Love does not boast. It is not proud. Boasting or bragging on self is an outward manifestation of pride. Boasting on self takes attention off of others and it puts it on self. It puts it on me. You cannot practice sacrificial love and be one who boasts about your skills or accomplishments. Is this you? It says that love does not dishonor others. The real wording here is that love's not rude. Love does not needlessly, intentionally offend. Man, love has good manners. It's courteous. It's polite. It's sensitive to the feelings of others and always uses tact. And the reason that we are not courteous, of course, is that we are thinking only of ourselves and not of other people. Love does not dishonor others. Love is not self-seeking. Selfishness is the root problem of the human race. It's the very opposite of love, which is self-sacrificing. It is not selfish, does not demand its rights. If you think about this from a love must increase perspective, if it's not self-seeking, and that's what selfishness is. Selfishness cannot be present for love to be present. So my selflessness has to become more and more evident if love is going to increase. I know that's a mouthful. Think about it this way. It's the mantra, one of the mantras of Jesus. We are to die to self daily. Says that love is not easily angered. Love does not have a hair-trigger temper. It's not touchy or overly sensitive. When I was looking at this word, I was thinking, because of our English language, that this meant all about a quick temper. Somebody just kind of flies off the handle real easily. But it really is more than that. It really comes down to just, are you somebody that's easily irritated? That's what this is. And there's a direct link to love is patient and love is not easily angered or irritated. And then there's this one, love keeps no record of wrongs. This is pretty straightforward. Here's the truth though, when you interact with people, there will be wrongs in the relationship. It happens. It's guaranteed, no matter how healthy the relationship is. Yesterday, I was supposed to meet James. We meet every so often, and we're working through the small circle discipleship tool together. And apparently the time before last, we agreed to meet yesterday at our normal meeting place. However, I forgot to put yesterday's meeting in my calendar. So at 7:02 yesterday morning, I'm sitting in my recliner, sipping coffee, talking to Amanda. Get this text. We still meeting at our normal spot? Oh my gosh, man, I cannot believe that I went off and I completely forgot about this. And here's the crazy thing, Stella's back there in the back right now telling Katrina this right now, because I'm going to tell this part of the story. Stella, on Friday night, goes, Dad, you meeting James tomorrow? And I'm like, looked at the calendar. No, I guess I'm not meeting James tomorrow. Oh, well, you normally meet. I'm like, well, I didn't put anything in the calendar, so I guess we're not meeting. She might have even said, hey, you probably want to call and double check or something. I'm like, no, it's not in the calendar. It's good. We're not meeting. So just helping James with his faith journey of living this out by not keeping a record of wrongs. It's like, unintentional discipleship, right? Let me do this. But here's the thing. If I'm keeping a tally of wrongs in my life, then I am not practicing forgiveness. And the Bible is very clear that we're going to be forgiven as we forgive. And you think about the wrongs in our lives, because all sin is even though it may be towards one another, all sin is also against God. And what is the length that He has gone to forget our sins? As far as the east is from the west, so far He has removed our transgressions from us. Man, can we say that? Love does not keep a record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but it rejoices with truth. And we know that evil is part of our world. Now, here's the thing. Evil does not necessarily mean wicked or sinister, okay? Evil simply is the absence of God. It's possible to be a good person. It's possible to be a person with high morals. But if you do not have God, then you are considered evil. And if someone you don't like falls into sins, we're not to gloat. You shouldn't gloat. We should grieve, because God is grieved over sin. And then if they repent, if they come to repentance in their life, and then we should rejoice, because that is what heaven is doing. And so there's this balance to love. Although love is kind, we are to overlook the faults of other people. But it does not compromise the truth ever. It does not take a soft view of sin. And so to allow another person to go on in sin, whether it is known sin or if it's a blind spot, this is not to seek his best. This is not love. Love with sensitivity, we confront and we correct precisely. Speak the truth in love, we are told to do. And we do this because love cares deeply and knows that sin destroys. Because the Father of all lies has come to seek you out, to kill and destroy that which is valuable to God, and that is you. Love rejoices with truth. Love gets excited when it hears of spiritual victories. And then finally, love always protects. It trusts. It hopes. It perseveres. So that's the list. That's the list of characteristics of love that must be sharpened. It must be practiced in our lives so that love will increase. Now, the image that Paul is painting with his words is that our love for one another and for all people should increase and overflow. And I love that. This word overflow, we've all been there. We can picture it in our minds right now. We've all filled up some form of container, and we weren't paying attention, and the container started to overflow. It started to exceed the limits of the container, and it spews out everywhere, like you're the container. And love is within us, and it is supposed to fill up and just spew out onto others. That's what Paul is saying to the church. It's Paul's prayer for these people, that their love will increase and that our love should flow out of us in abundance. So the Thessalonians, they heard Paul's instructions. And here's the cool thing. They obeyed. Right? Like Paul goes on, and we'll talk about this next week, because the end of his first letter, he gets into final instructions, but then there is a second letter. And in the second letter, he commends them right away. In 2 Thessalonians chapter 1, we ought always to thank God for you, brothers and sisters, and rightly so, because your faith is growing more and more, and the love all of you have for one another is what? It's increasing. Like, he was so excited about their faith and what they were doing. And how does he know that their faith is increasing? How does he know that their faith is growing? Because their love for one another is increasing. And I wonder, church, can that be said of this congregation? Can that be said of you? Is your love for one another, for everyone else, is it increasing? Paul finishes the letter, or finishes the section on love back in 1 Corinthians 13, and he says this, and now these three remain, faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. I mean, I think faith's pretty important. I think hope is pretty important. And if you study the New Testament, man, these three virtues, faith, hope, and love, man, they are mentioned multiple times together in the New Testament. But the greatest of these is love. There's not a verse that says God is faith or God is hope. There's a verse that says God is love. And not to minimize faith, not to minimize hope, those things are super important. But the greatest of these is love. Why? And I'd love to get into all of the part of the section of what Paul is teaching to the church at Corinth. Chapters 11, 12, 13, and 14. I'd love to get into that. He talks about spiritual gifts and all of those things. But let me remind you of what he says. If I speak in the tongues of men or angels, but do not have love, I'm a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have the faith that can move mountains but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor, I give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Nothing matters without love. It's the very thing that sent Jesus Christ to come to this earth, to walk with us, to show us how to live this out in relationship. Love. It's the very thing that took him to the cross, where he became the substitutionary atonement for you and I. It's love. And if we don't have it in what we do, it's nothing. And Jesus, I think, summarizes it best like this. We're done. How's the world going to know that you're my followers? You could tell them. You can wear it on t-shirts. You get your jewelry, your necklaces, have your little cross. You get the tats all over. Do all those things. Put it in your profile on social media. Christ follower, this, that. I go to church here. I'm not knocking any one of those things. But what's Jesus say? It's going to be the message to the world that's going to identify you as one of his followers by our love. So is your love increasing? God, we love you and we thank you for Paul's reminder, a reminder to me. There's so many of those elements, those pieces of love, God, that I know need to increase in my own life. And Father, it's not easy. But Jesus modeled this for us. And so, Lord, I pray the prayer that David did, that, Lord, that you will point out, you will reveal to us anything that does not please you. Father, I pray that in our lives, love increases. Father, if it has been neglected or if it is plateaued in our lives, please forgive us of that. Father, I pray that our efforts and our energies today forward to live this out, knowing that it's going to be with people. Some of it's easy and a lot of it's hard. A lot of this is a response to being neglected or being wronged or not feeling valued